Today, we're talking about another rebuilding team that arguably has hmm, less of a direction. Maybe not less of a direction. Let no franchise cornerstones. Probably the better way or the best way to put this in comparison to a lot of other teams that we've already talked about. This team doesn't have the young ascending star or young upside piece that you would consider the franchise player. When you think of the Brooklyn Nets in 2025, who do you think of? Do you think of Cam Thomas? It's probably the best answer. Do you think of Nick Claxton? Do you think of D'Angelo Russell? Do you think of Drew Timme? We'll figure that out over the course of this episode, which is probably not going to be as long as some of the recent ones, just because there's less guys to talk about, in my opinion, or less players that I feel very strongly need to be talked about and that are polarizing. I think a lot of it is pretty straightforward here. And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing for everyone, even though in this case, I think it ends up being more of a negative angle on a lot of players on this team. But before we end up talking about the Nets, just wanted to remind you guys that BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. We are almost done, not almost done, but some of the series are almost done of the first round of the playoffs. Tonight we have Bucks Pacers, Pistons Knicks, Magic Celtics. Do we have 4 games? Now I need to double check this. We do. On a random Tuesday, we have 4 games for some reason. Normally during the week, it's 2 to 3 playoff games, so we're going to have 4 starting at 6 p.m. Eastern time with Bucks Pacers. The Pacers having a chance to close the series out at home. Then it'll be Knicks Pistons with the Knicks having a chance to close that series out at home. The Celtics have a chance to close that series out at home in the third game of the night. And then one of the most exciting matchups of the first round, the Clippers-Nuggets series, will continue with Game 5. The Nuggets won't have a chance to close that one out at home because it's tied. It definitely has been one of the best series of the first round, maybe the best series. Can't think of one that's been that much better. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some more close finishes as these games continue on, even if you're using BetOnline and betting on these games, it could be frustrating, especially if you had the Pistons in that game in Game 4, where the Tim Hardaway Jr. shot, frustrating. But yeah, you could see 3 of these teams closing out their series at home to advance to the next round in there. And if you want to bet on the action, BetOnline is a great place to do that with the largest selection of odds on everything from the MLB to the NHL and to UFC. BetOnline remains the number one online source for all your sports wagering info. BetOnline, the game starts here. Okay, let's talk about Brooklyn. And I feel like, I don't know if we were looking back to episode 1 of this, where I ended it, if you were gracious enough to listen to that, ended it by saying that it was a great place for this to start, a great place just to kind of get a show out there, get some shots up a little bit, and that as we did more of these, things would get better, they'd flow better, I'd bring in better information, and I guess realizing that there's a lot more other factors that I should have been talking about with some of those other teams that we're going to do today. So specifically with the Nets, we're just looking ahead to their roster next season, just kind of recapping this season, doing both at the same time. The players they have under contract for next season, like no doubt about it, Nick Claxton, Cam Johnson, Noah Clowney, Dariq Whitehead, and that's it. We have Keon Johnson, Jalen Wilson, Tyrese Martin, and Drew Timme on team options. So they're all those are all very cheap contracts. I'd be shocked if they didn't get picked up, but we'll see. They may want to clear out a roster spot. Maxwell Lewis is on a non-guaranteed or not fully guaranteed deal for next season. I would assume he's back based on just looking at their Spotrac page. D'Angelo Russell, DeAnthony Melton, if you remembered, he's actually on this roster. Got traded for Dennis Schroeder when Dennis Schroeder got traded to the Warriors. Yes, Dennis Schroeder was on the Warriors this season. That's also kind of weird to think about. And then Trendon Watford, they're all unrestricted free agents. And then Zaire Williams, Cam Thomas, Day'Ron Sharpe, and Reese Beekman are restricted free agents. So there's a lot of uncertainty about what this team is going to look like next season, which I feel like if we're just trying to both recap last season and look ahead to next season, we need to know who's on the team. So that's a pretty big factor, specifically for Brooklyn, because it was the first official year of their rebuild. It's been a couple seasons since they made the trades to move on from the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving era. But this was the first year they were officially rebuilding. So we'll see how long it takes them. If we look at recent rebuilds, it generally takes multiple losing abysmal seasons to acquire enough talent to get back to contention in the postseason. The Nets may have a slightly different path. I mean, if we're looking at a team like OKC, they were able to accelerate their path with a player like SGA, multiple trades to acquire a ton of picks, a ton of extra picks, and then hitting on their draft picks. The Nets don't have an SGA. They don't have anyone anywhere near an SGA, but they do have a lot of extra picks, and they play in the East, so that helps too. If we're looking ahead, kind of ahead by 2 months, and then ahead even beyond that, they have 5 picks. Have this somewhere. 5 picks in this upcoming draft. So they have the 6th best odds at the number 1 pick. Then they also have picks 19, 26, 27, and 36. So that's 5 picks in the top 36. That is 4 first-round picks. And they could still luck out in the lottery. There's a chance. I mean, if we're looking at a team that wasn't just mismanaged and lost a bunch of games, or a team that tanked intentionally, or a team that was just riddled with injuries and just had bad luck. The Nets didn't fall into any of those categories. I felt like they were as close to ethical tanking as you can be without having anybody that you're like, we need to make sure this guy gets minutes because we feel like he's a strong part of our future. They do have players that have that potential to be there or to be parts of their future, but it's a lot of unknowns with this roster. I mean, I would say Nick Claxton's image in the league has gone down the last couple of years, progressively the last couple of seasons, because he did have that one season where he was like a second-round value in 9-cat leagues, but things get a little bit more difficult when you're on a bad team and you're a center that can't create his own shot, that relies on being, a lob threat, being a elite defender, a great rebounder, and you're on a bad team. Those things don't work out the same. Excuse me. Cam Thomas is still seen as an elite scorer, but is he an all-star upside type of guy, or is he, probably a player that you'd want more in a 6th man role, ideally, but it would have a chance to win 6th man of the year every year, or a player that is a really good scoring starter. But I think if you're looking at it from a team building perspective of, hey, we're trying to win a championship this year, do you think that Cam Thomas is a guy that can be a number 2 option on a championship team? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think if we're just talking about scorers, like players so you can average those points per game, like, yeah, he's up there for one of the best in the league, but I don't necessarily view him as, hey, he's a top 2 or 3 option on a championship team. So maybe the best role for him, if he's looking to, contribute to winning, is as a 6th man, where his instant offense is far more appreciated. He can still play starters minutes. I don't know. Maybe it's an interesting kind of philosophy thing there of how he would fit into the rotation. Maybe he does. It's still fine for him to start, but I don't know. The way I would view him would be on a playoff team as a 6th man, but we will I could easily just be having his face up there as I'm talking about him. So we'll do that. Coming off averaging 24 points, 3.3 rebounds, 3.8 assists per game. Definitely a career high for points. I'm pulling up the rest to make sure that the others see what else was. I'm pretty sure the assists were career high as well. Also averaged 2.7 threes per game. Really good from the free throw line at 88%. 43.8% from the floor is not ideal. And yes, just confirming 24 points, career high, 3.8 assists, career high, 2.7 threes, career high, 25 games. Oh, career low. Not ideal there. It was awesome to start the season. I think pretty quickly was considered. I mean, he started off the season with 36, 24, 32, and 26, first 4 games. And it was like, oh, yeah, this guy is going to be what we thought Jordan Poole was going to be last year. He's going to be on a bad team, and he's going to be one of the top scorers in the league. Oh, this is going to be a fun season. Then he got hurt in November, played 1 game in December at the end, 1 game in January at the beginning. Didn't play again until the last day of February, played 5 games in March, and then was done. Really just a lost season, which kind of stinks because he did start off so well. And it'll be interesting to see how teams view him in free agency because he is a restricted free agent. Will the Nets just say we're going to match any offer? Will a team make an offer that is too much for the Nets to even consider matching? I don't really see that happening where it would be. I mean, I don't even know if there is a number that would be too much for the Nets. I don't know exactly how the Nets view him. And they're also not close to competing. So maybe it's not the worst thing in the world to have Cam Thomas to keep things exciting, keep things competitive, and just sign him and overpay him. And it's maybe not even overpaying him, just pay him a lot of money. And that's okay while you're rebuilding your team because having that type of presence out there isn't the worst thing as you try to develop some younger guys just to, again, keep things competitive. Because I think one thing that squanders the development of some of the younger players is consistently getting blown out. And I think Washington implemented this at times, or at least tried to, by having Jordan Poole out there the whole season, having Chris Middleton out there for stretches at the end of the season, like having them play, even if it's in spurts, like playing at a high level, playing competitive basketball in competitive games, while still trying to lose. Not the worst thing for the development of the young guys, which, as we said, as of right now, they have 5 picks in the top 36, 4 first rounders. They can add 5 new players to this roster. And they, with everyone, I mean, most of the roster hitting free agency, they're not going to have to worry about clearing out cap space or anything. So I would assume Cam Thomas is back, but I think it'll be pretty interesting to observe. And if he signs with a different team, does he sign with another rebuilding team and kind of maintain the same role? Or does he sign with more of a contending team and is okay taking a little bit of a back seat at times to try and contribute more so to winning? It'll be interesting, and I think it'll definitely impact how we can use him or how we can view him in fantasy next season and the seasons beyond. Because, I mean, if he's with Brooklyn or another rebuilding team, our main fear is how many games is he going to play? And if he's playing on a contending team, our main fear is how many shots is he going to get? How many minutes is he going to get? I would assume, if I'm guessing back with that he would be back with Brooklyn. I don't see too many contending teams offering enough to bring in a 24 point per game scorer that's 23 years old in free agency or having the cap space to do that. But we'll see. And just talking about, I guess, just trying to keep talking about this team as a whole and like where do they go from here? Because as I said, there's a few guys that have the upside here to be long-term pieces. I guess, for example, here's a good one, Noah Clowney, who was first round pick in 2023. Had kind of an interesting season. So he averaged 9.1 points, 3.9 rebounds, 9.1 points, 3.9 rebounds, and 1.9 threes in 22.7 minutes per game. Wasn't the shot blocker that it seemed like he was going to be at the end of last season. Because I mean, for those of us that remember, he had an excellent April during silly season, which maybe we should have just chalked it up to silly season. But I think that there was enough there that I think he showed enough promise. Because just looking back to April 2024, he had a 22 point, 10 rebound game in 17 minutes. He had a 17-6 with 4 blocks game in 24 minutes. He had a 7 block game. So like, and was able to space the floor during that. And he was able to space the floor this season. That was something that definitely translated. And then didn't play a ton after January, only 9 appearances after January. So we didn't really get the extended silly season look that we got the year before. But I think he has a great skill set for fantasy, and is a young enough piece that they can continue to build with him. He'll be 21 in July. And I mean, I think a guy that can control the paint and space the floor fits well in the modern NBA. So definitely a piece that they would like to build with. Um, but it's interesting. How does that work? I mean, he is one of the few players that will be under contract for next season. But they also have Nick Claxton, and what are they going to do with him? Because I mean, I would assume Noah Clowney's best role in my eyes is as a stretch 5. But Nick Claxton's there, and Nick Claxton needs a point guard. So say they land a guy like Dylan Harper in the draft, that fits well for Nick Claxton. But if not, I would think that the best move for Claxton would be just to trade him, because he can definitely help a contending team. I mean, just I don't know exactly what you get in return or if it's enough, but the Lakers definitely need a center. I mean, that's kind of very clear during the postseason. And that, I mean, Claxton would be a nice rim runner for Luka. So you have Noah Clowney behind him, where it's like, okay, like it doesn't hurt to keep Claxton, but prioritizing Noah Clowney's place in the rotation could also be a good thing. So either way, we'll see what ends up happening. Day'Ron Sharp's also a factor there, but he will be a restricted free agent. So we'll see what type of offer he gets in free agency. But a lot of these other guys, it was kind of like reclamation project year in Brooklyn. I mean, Zaire Williams had a good bounce back year, I think, after kind of a disappointing end to his time with Memphis. Keon Johnson's kind of bounced around since entering the league, and he had some solid stretches for Brooklyn. As far as guys they drafted, like Jalen Wilson had solid stretches, was an older rookie coming in last year. Not a super high upside guy. There's just not a lot of, I guess, things to talk about or like high upside guys. Like Drew Timmy had a fun stretch. I mean, there's things to like about individuals on this team, but not enough to say, oh, okay, like that's something for Brooklyn. Like they have the makings of a young core. They don't, but that's kind of by design. So I wouldn't say that. Well, like I think just trying to mesh all my points together, keeping guys like Claxton and Cam Thomas around isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't really see them as part of the core that helps Brooklyn win, that helps Brooklyn when they're ready to return to the postseason. They're young enough that it's not impossible, but I would view them more as, hey, they're there to keep things somewhat competitive for a little bit, and maybe they get moved later on. Or I mean, as far as Cam Thomas, we'll see how restricted free agency plays out. Claxton's under contract through 2028. So when does a move happen there, or do they say, or are they just going to disagree with me and say, no, Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton plus whoever we draft plus Cam Johnson, like this is our core. I don't really know exactly how that's going to play out, but we'll see. Cam Johnson's definitely a guy that it'd be almost strange if they kept him around. I think he would be a coveted piece on the trade market. and just getting any sort of draft capital back that you can. And maybe they wait until the trade deadline because, again, having a veteran in the locker room is not a bad thing. And Cam Johnson, Cam Thomas, and Nick Claxton are going to have the Nets winning so many games that they miss out on one of the top players in 2026. But in my eyes, they're probably going to bring back more value in the trade market, and that you can get veteran leaders that aren't as, I guess, expensive, because we're looking at Claxton next year's owed $25 million, Cam Johnson's owed $20 million, and Cam Thomas is going to probably fetch a lot just because he averaged 24 points per game. So they're going to build through the draft. I mean, there will be probably more from Nets fans, but rumors of them looking to trade for Giannis. I don't really see. I mean, I guess there have been rumors for a while about the Nets viewing Giannis as, I guess, who they want, who they've been building up to make a move for. I don't really, not that it's up to Giannis, because if the Bucks choose to trade him and the Nets offer the best package, that's what happens. But like, it would probably be a better situation than Milwaukee with the way things are looking right now. But is it that much better? And how much would Brooklyn have to part with to make that happen? And it probably wouldn't make for a contending team. But so they have their 5 picks this year. They have their own first in 2026. In 2027, they have their own first, but Houston has the right to swap it, which is, I mean, if they're still rebuilding then, and Houston's able to have that, goodness gracious. They have the Knicks unprotected first in 2027, and then the 76ers protected 1 through 8 in 2027, then their own in 2028. They have New York's unprotected in 2029 and 2031 as well. And then this 2029, it's a very weird swap between 4 teams. It's very complex. Basically, they have a lot of pieces for this year and then a couple of other extra pieces every 2 years. They'll only have 1 pick in 2026 with a chance to get either Cam Boozer, AJ DeBonsa, Darren Peterson, one of the other top prospects in what's a loaded class. So there is a way to kind of jolt this rebuild or jolt excitement for the fans if the lottery, 1, plays in your favor, and 2, you're able to draft well. I mean, if they have 5 picks, they do have the roster openings to be able to make that type of, or bring in that amount of rookies. But will they? Could they potentially trade up or trade out to get future picks? Like, they have some moves to make here. We'll see what they're able to actually end up doing it with it. But they do have the makings of, I guess, a team for the future. They have pieces. They just need to make them work together. This is the early stages of a rebuild. I think if you're looking at some of the other teams we've already talked about, like Utah has a ton of former lottery picks or recent lottery picks, recent first-round picks, talented players. Same thing with Washington. Charlotte has a handful of guys. The Pelicans, that's most of their roster. They just keep getting injured. Philly, like, very talented team that just suffered through a lot of injuries this season. Brooklyn doesn't really have those type of players. They have some of the guys we've talked about that are very good, that would be valuable as in the trade market or just to a contending team. They have some younger players that have some upside, but I wouldn't say you feel like this player is somebody that we're going to try and build around, I guess, until somebody better comes in, or these players are definitely going to be part of this team when they're ready to return to the postseason. If this roster, the next time the Nets are playing in the postseason, looks entirely different than what it does look like right now, it would not surprise me at all. Because I don't think that this is a 2-year rebuild. I think it's a much longer rebuild. And so I think as far as the dynasty excitement of the Nets, there isn't much there right now, which is why I said at the beginning of this episode, it's probably going to be a little bit shorter because there's less to talk about. But I think you just have to look ahead of the draft. And that's really what this is about. And I'm not going to go through every single prospect here, but there are quite a few in what is considered a much more talented draft class. Quite a few players to get Nets fans excited. And anyone that lands here would pretty much become like the franchise cornerstone. And even if it's a type of player where you're like, okay, like they're not the player that is going to be the face of the franchise when they return to the postseason, say that Brooklyn actually falls in the lottery and they end up, or just stay where they are, end up with a guy like a Concanupple. Like you probably wouldn't say that he is like, as of right now, like we'll see how he develops, but right now you probably wouldn't say, oh, he's going to be the face of a franchise on a playoff team. But when he's a rookie, like he's the most exciting player on that roster immediately as far as upside. So kind of gonna be treated like that early on. So if you're looking in your dynasty draft, I think Brooklyn is a very good landing spot for a number of these players if they leap up, and not necessarily. I mean, Cooper Flag's gonna be the franchise guy wherever he goes, but a guy like Dylan Harper, there's a couple of teams that will have a chance to draft number 2 that you maybe wouldn't immediately pencil him in as the franchise player, but you would do that with Brooklyn. Same thing with Ace Bailey, probably VJ Edgecombe, a couple of the other guys less optimistic about, but you would probably still have to say that just because that's what this team is built for right now. It's let's develop this kind of like this culture of this is what we want to be. Because like I said at the beginning, like this wasn't a team that tanked super hard by trying to lose games. They tanked pretty ethically. Like Jordi Fernandez did a great job of keeping them competitive, even when, the second half of the season or towards the end of the season when less starters were made available, like they were still playing competitive basketball. So they have the coach figured out, in my opinion. Hopefully the consistent losing doesn't weigh on the team, on the GM, on ownership, or even on Jordi Fernandez, and he's able to continue to coach the way he has, because I think it'd be cool if he got them back to the postseason in a few years and they just allowed him to continue to develop with this team. But man, whoever they get in the first round, or especially with that first pick, they become the franchise until someone better comes along. So it's a great landing spot for year one. It's a great landing spot for a player to be developed around. Because, I mean, think about the difference between one of these guys landing in Philadelphia versus landing in Brooklyn. You land in Philadelphia, there's expectations immediately. You're looking to make the playoffs. You're looking to compete for a championship. You have to alter your game to help compete for a championship. Philly picks 3. I don't even know if they take Ace Bailey. Do they say, yeah, we like the upside, but if we're trying to win a championship with this team next year, how does Ace Bailey help us? Isn't he going to have like growing pains? And do we really need a guy that's just like a shot creator? Like that's what his main skill is. We have those. We have guys that are professional scorers. We need someone that can, I guess, kind of play more of a role while still having that upside. But you don't have that issue with Brooklyn. No matter who they get, they are going to be prioritized and probably have an opportunity to work through a lot of issues. I think just look back to this past season, Atlanta getting Zachary Risachet, there was a lot of games early on where, and I mean, even into the postseason, he was playing like 16 minutes per game. They made him a starter because he was the number 1 overall pick, and he's an important part of the future. But 16 minutes per game, hey, you're not hitting shots. We're trying to win a postseason game, man. Like, if you're not helping us, we have to turn to someone else. Like, well, your development is still important, but we're trying to win games. You have that same level of, and even more expectations in Philly next year than with Atlanta this year. But you're not having that in Brooklyn. So I'm excited to see how the draft lottery plays out, be totally like in favor of them leaping up. Whoever lands there, I'm going to be optimistic about them having a good rookie year. Even if there are probably going to be some efficiency issues, there are going to be plenty of minutes, plenty of usage, and a lot of opportunities. and time to work through any rookie mistakes. But that's all I got for the Nets. I guess we can just briefly see if there's anybody that I haven't even mentioned. Chennon Watford, another guy. Tyrese Martin had some good games. Yeah, that's about all I got for Brooklyn. So I think this roster is going to look quite different next year. And then over the next few years, a lot of change will continue to come. That's not necessarily a bad thing. This is a team that's still trying to recover from making big home run swings and missing, mostly just due to like injuries and bad luck, but swings and misses. Well, I mean, I guess hiring Steve Nash as the head coach, it was just a swing and a miss, just didn't work out. But they're going to play the long game, and that's okay. We just need to take it for what it is. So whether you're playing in the Dynasty League or Redraft League, understand that games played may be an issue at times, especially for some of these older players. Maybe not so much for whoever they get in the lottery, but they're probably going to be towards the bottom for a couple more years. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of trying times in Brooklyn. But that's going to do it for this episode. As always, like, subscribe, comment, tweet at me for any feedback that you have, any disagreements at NoRuben22 on both Twitter and Blue Sky. But that's going to do it, and I will see you next time.